Melvin and I wanted to take a minute just to talk about the impact of Kobe's career, the impact of the Black Mamba persona, and just what Kobe's life meant to us. So what are some, I guess, memories from Kobe's career, some special impactful moments that he had?
I happen to be a couple of years older, well, a year and a half older than Kobe is. And so I got to watch him progress as a young player and follow his career because I was really heavy into basketball. I was a gym rat. So I got to see him go from being this 18-year-old phenom to finding his place on an already established Lakers team,
right,
and turning into this superstar right before our eyes. And I won't lie, I was in and out as a Kobe. I was a Shaq fan, so
okay,
the dynasty years I was rooting, and it was just like, but you get to look back and just see the impact that he's had on the game. It was tremendous. Like, even in the times when I didn't agree with where he was in life, I couldn't deny how good of a basketball player he was at that time and what he was going to turn into, a superstar.
Yeah, and you say you were in and out on his career. For most of it, I was out. I was a proud, unabashed Kobe hater,
Okay.
For a lot of years of his career. And, it wasn't anything personal. It was just, you have players that you like. You have players that annoy you for whatever reason.
Yep.
Like you, I was a Shaq fan. I was an Allen Iverson fan. I was a Dirk Nowitzki fan.
Mm-hmm.
And Kobe destroyed, the Mavericks a lot of times. He beat Allen Iverson. He's one of those guys that it was fun to root against. But at the same time, I had a great respect and admiration for his skill level, for his determination, for that Mamba mentality,
right,
and for everything that he did. It wasn't a personal dislike for him. It was just more of a fun thing where it's great to root against this guy. He won 5 championships, but he had a 20-year career, so there are 15 years where I could look at my Kobe stands and be like, ha, he lost. So he made the game fun to watch. Whether you liked him, whether you disliked him, he made the game more entertaining and made you just really buy into it.
Yeah. I know my stepson is this ride or die Kobe fan, and I knew that once we went to LA one year, and I had to get him to a game, and it was impressive to watch. It was preseason. I think he only played about 15 minutes of the game, but he scored like 20 points, and he did it so effortlessly, man. He was an amazing guy to watch. Like, you can't deny his talent. He was, one of the greats.
Yeah, absolutely. And whether, a lot of people argue, is he the GOAT? Is he top 5? Is he top 10, top 20? Wherever he is, he's amongst the greats.
Right.
You can argue where he fits, but there's no denying that he fits. And
right,
another thing I just want to touch on is that he has such a huge impact on the culture of basketball. In a way like Allen Iverson also did. There's some guys who you can't really tell the story of the NBA without that person.
Oh, yeah.
And Kobe's one of those guys. Even a short history, like his impact was that big.
Yeah, definitely. I believe there are a couple of typical Kobe fans. The first ones, in my opinion, were the younger players who really didn't get to experience Mike in his heyday.
Right.
And Kobe was the second coming of that.
Right.
So for them, the same way we were enamored with Mike and older people were enamored with Mike, they saw that same drive and ambition and will to win that they saw in Mike.
Right.
And it's an attractive thing. On the flip side, if you weren't a Lakers fan, that's the same thing that made you mad because you knew every time he played your team, he was trying to kill everybody. So, and it didn't matter. And he was so pervasive in the game. Like, a lot of times, there are people, every time they shoot the ball, you think it's going in, whether it does or not. And Kobe, Michael Jordan are those kind of guys. And if you weren't a Lakers fan, then it was easy for you to be like, he sucks. But that's the people I noticed that were either fans or haters.
Right. And there were a lot of people who disliked Kobe because he emulated so many of Michael Jordan's moves. And so a lot of people thought he's trying too hard to be like Michael Jordan. He mastered a lot of those same moves. He had that same competitive drive. And so a lot of the older guys were saying, nah, this guy, he's a great value, Michael Jordan. Whereas the younger guys were like, no, he's better than Michael Jordan. And you're always going to get those arguments. You get those same arguments with LeBron James now and whoever the next guy, that kind of takes over. You get those arguments. I think for me, I also think a lot of people, you just dislike people for some reason. There's just some part of their personality that annoys you, and you're really going to frame everything else around that. So if Kobe just rubs me the wrong way, then I'm going to say, oh, he shoots too many shots. Oh, he's selfish. Oh, he's a jerk. Meanwhile, I might like Allen Iverson, as I mentioned before. Well, he shoots a lot of shots. He can be a jerk in certain situations. So I think a lot of times we just like who we like.
Exactly.
And Kobe had that thing that made a lot of people love him, but it also made a lot of people dislike him. But either way, he made the game more exciting.
Yeah, always a topic of conversation.
Right.
In my opinion, the rape allegations in Colorado changed some people's perspective of Kobe at the time because he was a little less forthcoming with the media than a lot of people were. He kind of shielded himself. He didn't do the typical interviews. Like if you look back in the days, Shaq was rapping, doing TV shows and movies, and he was this overwhelming personality. Whereas Kobe kind of shied away from that part of the spotlight. It was all about the game. And then when the tapes started coming out, and like I said, I was a huge Shaq fan, and he snitched on Shaq. And that was it for me for a long time. When he snitched on Shaq, like, come on, he's the big fundamental. He's helping everybody. He's the larger-than-life personality. So it was like that kind of showed a side of Kobe that people didn't see, and they all took their own interpretation from that. And, who's to say if you were in that situation what your reaction would be? So, but on the flip side of that, I think some people admired him a little more on the court because his game stepped up in the middle of that whole controversy. Like, he went ballistic on the court. Like, as far as he started working out before and after games, and like his whole mental, I think he was trying to take his mind off of that situation.
Right.
So, I mean, it could go either way. But I know a lot of people that situation did affect their opinion of him.
Yeah. For me, I don't think the accusations had a big impact on me. Again, at the time, I was a Kobe hater anyway, so I'm sure thought down of him if that's what happened. That's abhorrent. Because he settled out of court, because a criminal case was dropped, we never really found out what happened. And since there was that settlement, I said, well, that's really not my place to decide. If he did it, that's terrible. He deserved to be punished. If he didn't, who knows?
Right.
So I really didn't let that influence my opinion of him one way or another. I will say, as his career progressed, I became more of a fan. I officially renounced my Kobe hating ways, maybe 2 or 3 years before he retired, and just was able to appreciate his game. I really did. Once he retired and stepped away and began to mentor other athletes. During his career, he really didn't like to work out with athletes. Now you see that a lot. LeBron James works out with this guy or that guy. Kobe didn't do that.
Right.
But once he retired, you see him work out with Kawhi Leonard. You see him work out with Giannis Antetokounmpo. You see him work out with Jason Tatum from St. Louis. You see him work out with all of these guys. And he also became more of a public face mentoring his daughter, Gigi, who tragically passed away with him. But you saw him coaching her. You saw her at the games. You saw him posting video clips. So you saw him on ESPN doing a show where he's breaking down. Detail was the show. He's breaking down plays, breaking down every athlete. Mm-hmm. So I admired him more in his latter career and his post career just because that jerk side, that Mamba mentality, that I'm ice cold, I'm going to kill everybody, that faded away, and he opened up more, and you could see him more as a human being as opposed to this persona that he was during his playing career.
Yeah, I agree.
That was, 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
I guess 20 years ago when they dated. But when you're a celebrity, you give up some of those private moments. Like every part of your life plays out in the public eye. And a lot of people around our age remember Kobe going to prom with Brandy.
It was a huge deal.
Yeah, it was a huge topic. Everybody was talking about that. Was before social media was really out there like that. Mm-hmm. But I guarantee at every high school, every middle school, people would tell, oh, Kobe's going to prom with Brandy. That's just part of his story. That's part of his history. And that's something that people are going to talk about. I'm sure that his wife, Vanessa, is strong enough to know that, she's not worried about his girlfriend or this woman he went to prom with so many years ago. Right. She has enough to deal with her grieving and taking care of her daughters that she still has. So that's just something for public fodder, for people to talk about, but I don't think it's offensive in any way.
Essentially, #GirlDad refers to fathers who have daughters. Right. And, a lot of times in those relationships, things get split. The boys will spend more time with the dad. The girls will spend more time with the mom. I love my daughters, and it's a thing. You always hear the term daddy's girl. You know what I'm saying? Right. And that's a special relationship, and I think it's drawn attention to it now with the hashtag. A lot of people are sharing photos and videos of them spending time with their daughters and really making it more vocal on how much they appreciate them.
Yeah, and I thought that was one of the more interesting things to come out of Kobe passing, that we got that Girls Dad hashtag just to highlight fathers and their daughters. And I know some people have said Kobe always wished he had a son. He had 4 girls, but I saw a quote where Kobe recently said he loved having girls. He would have more girls if he could. So he loved being a father to his 4 daughters, and I think it's just very important the way that that's highlighted, especially with black men taking care of their daughters. I think that's a wonderful thing. So I'm glad that people were able to pull that out of his tragic death.
Yeah. I saw an old interview that resurfaced that kind of told that the whole idea of him taking helicopters was so that he wouldn't get caught in traffic and he would have more time to spend with his kids. Right. Because by him being on the road so much, that opportunity was kind of rare. So, kudos to him in this situation and being cognizant of the importance of those relationships.
Yeah, and it was even amazing as a player to see his daughter develop and have some of those Kobe tendencies. She had the fadeaway. She had the same just mean mug, like I want to go at your throat. And she already had an offer to go to UConn. Yep. At what was she? 14 years old?
13.
13 years old. She already knew she was going to play basketball at UConn. Mm-hmm. So sad to see that future was taken from her, but you could just look at her development and tell that Kobe was really pouring into her game and that she really had that drive to succeed just like he did.
Right. Once they make another documentary about Kobe, the helicopter crash is going to be a cliff note. It's so, it was a big event because it ended his life ultimately. But I think where we're at right now is such a big topic. But by the time they get done with that, it'll be the end of the movie. It'll be, a couple of minutes. They go into a little bit of detail. And by then they'll, fully know exactly what happened. And I don't think it'll be a focus of the film, though.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to Kobe's life or anybody's life, you really have to look at the totality. And I don't think anything should be off the books or anything should be where you can't talk about it. So people are going to talk about him being drafted straight out of high school. People are going to talk about him growing up out of the United States. People are going to talk about the sexual assault allegations. That's part of his story. You have to talk about it. If you don't, you're not really telling his full story. Right. They're going to talk about the helicopter crash. And like Melvin said, I guess by then there'll be more information. Right now, they don't fully know what caused it. We know it was a foggy day. We know that it wasn't pristine conditions for flying a helicopter. But at some point, they'll do an investigation, or they're currently doing an investigation. They'll find out more info. But I think you talk about everything. You talk about the beef with Shaq. You talk about people thinking he's a jerk. You're talking about his charity work. You talk about the Mamba Institute or the Mamba Academy. Right. So all of that plays a role in his story. And so I think for any documentary that comes out, for any film that comes out, I think they just have to do the best to tell that story in totality. You have to talk about people, you're shooting a piece of paper in the trash can, people yell Kobe.
Right.
That's a part of his story.
And he's one of the few that, from, I guess, age 15, they started videotaping his games and behind the scenes. And so they're going to have a lot to cover, basically. That's 20 plus years of life and extraordinary things that he's done. So, like I said, I think that, they're going to have to take their time and cover everything. That's going to be a small piece. You got players that were physically gifted, and they get to a certain level in the game, and they kind of stay there. But then you have guys like Kobe, who, at a young age, he grew up to be pretty tall. He ended up being 6'6". He was a good physical specimen for basketball, but I think his ability to drive himself to learn every part of the game. He knew where people were supposed to be in this play, and he would tell his teammate, you can watch him be a floor general and tell people where they're supposed to be, what you're supposed to do. And if you didn't do it right, he would take you to the side and tell you what you did wrong. I think his passion for the game drove him to take himself to the next level.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to his intellectual ability, I don't think Kobe was shy about, pushing forth that narrative. He was a smart guy. He spoke, three or four languages. And I think he wanted to present himself as different. He came from, some means. His father was a professional basketball player, so he had some advantages, and he knew it. And I remember even when I believe Trayvon Martin's situation happened, initially he came out and he was like, why do I have to support this guy just because he's black? And he caught a lot of flack and feedback against that. Mm-hmm. And later in his career, I think he learned that wasn't proper, know, and so you start to see him speak out more, to be more of an activist, whereas before I think he looked at himself as, I am a better black person. I am a little bit higher than everybody else. Right. But as his career went on and as he had a family and as he lived through certain situations, he realized that, no, I'm not different. Maybe I have some blessings that other people don't have, both physically, monetarily, right, whatever, but I'm still an African American, I'm still a minority in America, and I'm going to start to support these things. So I do think that ego, was high very early, but as he grew and matured, he was able to come back down to earth a little bit, and so it was just great to see that progression.
I agree. If you take any 18-year-old and give him a few $1 million and a crew of people around them that tell them that they can do no wrong, you're going to get some wrong. You're going to get some mistakes, right, and you're going to get some life lessons. And like you said, I feel like by the end of his life, he had turned that around and started to figure out what was important and where his focus should be.
Right. And that, that really is the great tragedy of the Kobe Bryant story, is that, once he became more just involved in the culture, but more involved just as a human person, right, caring about others, caring about the disadvantaged, caring about civil rights and justice and things like that, his story ended.
Right.
Who knows what we would have got the next 20, 40 years of Kobe Bryant.
True.
Let us know if you have any thoughts and memories that you'd like to share with the St. Louis American about Kobe Bryant. You can reach out to us on any of our social media avenues. We're on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. Make sure you click the subscribe button. Make sure you share. Make sure you join the notification gang so you can find out whenever we drop the next St. Louis American Sports Break. Melvin, unless you have any other words, I think it's time to go. So,
see you next time.
Kobe.